Mothers Behind Bars: How Female Inmates Survive, Protect, and Cope in Prison. For more real crime stories, be sure to subscribe, like, share, and let's discuss your thoughts in the comments. The sound of crying echoed down the cold hallway. It wasn't a baby's cry, it was a mother's. Officer Jenkins stood outside cell block D, frozen, as Maria Torres, a 32-year-old inmate, clutched a small piece of paper against her chest. Her hands trembled. Her lips quivered. The paper was a letter, one she had prayed she'd never receive. Her daughter, Isabella, had been taken into foster care that morning. The last thing Maria saw before the officers pulled her away during visitation last week was her little girl's pink shoes running toward the door, calling, "Mommy, don't let them take me." Now, sitting on the hard concrete floor, Maria screamed until her voice broke. Other women in nearby cells watched silently. Some turned away, others wiped their eyes. Every woman there knew that pain. Every woman had once been someone's mother, daughter, or sister. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared from down the corridor. An inmate fight had broken out in the laundry room. Officers rushed past Maria's cell. One of the women involved was Danielle Brooks, another mother serving time for theft. She had snapped after learning her son was in the hospital, and the guards wouldn't let her call. As the officers dragged Danielle away, her cries mixed with Maria's. Two mothers, both broken by bars. The sound filled the prison like a storm, and then everything went silent. But then, something happened that none of them expected. The next morning, Maria was summoned to the Family Connection program, a small pilot project run by a volunteer named Ms. Carla Dean. Carla explained that the prison was testing a new system, video calls for mothers and their children. Maria's heart pounded. Could she really see Isabella again? Even through a screen? It felt like hope, something she hadn't dared to feel in months. But the list was short, and only 5 mothers would be chosen. Names would be drawn at random. Maria waited all day, hands clasped, lips whispering silent prayers. Around her, other mothers gathered too. Danielle, now with a bandaged arm, Tasha Miller, who hadn't seen her baby since birth, and Erica Lawson, whose teenage son refused to speak to her. The air was thick with hope and fear. When the announcement came, everyone held their breath. Carla read the names one by one. Tasha Miller. Cheers erupted. Erica Lawson. She cried in disbelief. Then Carla paused before reading the third name. The paper shook slightly in her hands. She looked up at Maria with eyes that said something was wrong. "Maria Torres," she began softly. "Your name was on the list, but it's been crossed out." Maria's heart stopped.
What?
Why? Carla's voice lowered. "There's been a security report. Someone used your name in a smuggling attempt. Until it's cleared, you can't join the program." Maria felt the world spin. Someone had stolen her identity inside the prison, and now she might lose her only chance to see her daughter again. She gripped the edge of the metal table, her knuckles white. "Who would do this to me?" Carla hesitated, looking toward the far corner of the room where Danielle was sitting, her eyes avoiding Maria's. And that's when Maria realized the betrayal came from inside the cell block. Maria couldn't sleep that night. Every sound in the prison echoed louder than usual, the squeak of guard boots, the hum of flickering lights, the restless murmurs from other cells. But it wasn't the noise keeping her awake. It was the thought that someone she trusted had betrayed her. She stared up at the ceiling, clutching Isabella's last drawing under her pillow, a stick figure family holding hands under a yellow sun. It was her only piece of peace. Now even that felt fragile. The next morning, Maria decided to find out the truth. During breakfast, she sat across from Danielle Brooks, who avoided her eyes and stirred her oatmeal without eating. Maria leaned closer and whispered, "Why'd you do it?" Danielle froze. "Do what?" "You used my name," Maria said quietly but firmly. "You ruined my chance to see my daughter." Danielle's eyes flickered with guilt. "I didn't mean to. It was supposed to be just paperwork. They said it would help me get phone credits. I didn't know they'd use your file for contraband." "Who's they?" Maria asked. Before Danielle could answer, a guard shouted for everyone to stand. Random cell inspections were being done. Maria's heart pounded as two officers entered their block with flashlights and clipboards. The women lined up. One officer pointed to Maria's cell. "Check that one." They tore through her belongings, flipping her mattress, opening her locker, shaking out every piece of clothing. Then one of them held something up. It was a small packet taped under her bunk. Maria's blood ran cold. "That's not mine," she cried. But the officer was already calling for backup. Within minutes, she was cuffed and escorted to solitary confinement. The whispers followed her down the hallway. They found drugs in her cell. Guess she was part of it after all. Inside the isolation room, the air was heavy and damp. Maria sat on the narrow bed, tears burning her eyes. How had her name become tangled in someone else's mess? She thought of Isabella again, how her daughter might never understand why her mother couldn't call. Hours later, the cell door opened. It was Ms. Carla Dean. Her kind face looked more serious now. She spoke softly. "Maria, the warden's looking into your case. But they found a note in the evidence box with your signature." Maria's breath caught. "That's impossible." Carla placed the note on the table. "It's in your handwriting." Maria stared at it. It looked like her writing. The same curls on the letters, the same slant. But she knew she hadn't written it. Someone had forged her name. "Someone setting me up," she said, voice trembling. "You have to believe me." Carla nodded, her eyes full of sympathy. "I do. But the warden doesn't. Until they find proof, you're suspended from all programs, including contact with your child." Maria's chest tightened as the walls seemed to close in. She had lost her daughter once. Now she was losing her hope, too. But as Carla turned to leave, she whispered, "There's one person who can help you, the prison librarian, Janet Hill. She keeps the paperwork for every inmate. If someone forged your name, she might know." As the heavy door shut, Maria sat in the dim light, a single thought burning in her mind. She would prove her innocence no matter what it took. And as she pressed her hand to her chest, she made a silent promise to Isabella. "Mommy's coming back." But what Maria didn't know was that someone in that prison was already one step ahead, watching her every move, determined to keep her quiet. The next morning, Maria was escorted out of solitary. Her eyes stung from the lack of sleep, but her mind was clear. She had one mission: find Janet Hill and prove she was being framed. The prison library was the quietest place in the whole facility. Rows of dusty books lined the shelves, and the air smelled of old paper and disinfectant. Behind the counter sat Janet, a gray-haired woman with glasses perched on the edge of her nose. She looked up as Maria entered with a guard escort. "I heard about what happened," Janet said softly, lowering her voice once the guard stepped back. "You think someone forged your paperwork?" Maria nodded. "It has to be. My name was used to bring in something illegal. I swear I didn't do it." Janet sighed, unlocking a drawer filled with inmate files. "I believe you. I've seen this before. Women getting blamed for things they didn't do. But if someone used your ID number, it should be logged here." She flipped through the folders until she found one labeled Torres, Maria, D. 2174. Her fingers stopped halfway through. She frowned. "That's odd, there's a duplicate." A duplicate?" Maria asked, her pulse rising. Janet nodded slowly. "Two files under your number. One matches your original intake date, but this other one, someone made a copy with altered records. Look here, the handwriting on this page isn't yours. It's Danielle's." Maria's breath caught. Danielle Brooks. The same woman who had sat beside her every day in the cafeteria. The same woman who'd cried about her sick son. Before Maria could respond, the door to the library creaked open. Danielle stood there, arms crossed, eyes cold. "Looking for me?" she asked, voice steady. Janet stepped back cautiously. Maria faced her. "Why'd you do it, Danielle?" "Why me?" Danielle let out a bitter laugh. "You think you're the only one who loves her kid? I did what I had to do. They promised me a transfer to minimum security if I helped them. I never thought they'd drag you down too." "Who's they?" Maria demanded. Before Danielle could answer, two guards burst through the door. "Hands up, both of you." They moved in fast, cuffing Danielle. Apparently, the warden had been monitoring her movements ever since Maria's complaint. Hidden cameras in the mailroom had caught her switching documents the week before. As the guards led her away, Danielle turned to Maria, eyes wet. "You'll see your daughter again. I just couldn't save mine." Maria watched her disappear down the hall, her heart torn between anger and sorrow. Later that day, Ms. Carla Dean met Maria in her cell with a small smile. "The warden cleared your record. You're reinstated in the Family Connection program." Maria covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. For the first time in months, her heart felt lighter. That evening, she sat in front of a small screen in the visitation room. Static flickered before the image came through. Isabella, now wearing a school uniform, waving excitedly. "Mommy." Maria reached out, touching the glass. "Hey, baby girl." Her voice cracked with joy. Other mothers watched from behind her, quiet but hopeful. In that moment, Maria wasn't an inmate. She was a mother again. The camera light blinked as the call neared its end. "I love you," Isabella said. "I love you more," Maria whispered back. When the screen went black, Maria sat still for a long time, letting the silence settle. Around her, the walls of the prison didn't seem so cold anymore. Because in a place built to break women, Maria had found something stronger than steel, a mother's will to fight, to love, and to survive.